ring, now we free from them chains. Heavy hearts, but we moving through the rain. Three black brothers with the weight on their minds. Till we rise, till we shine, still we grind. From the darkness to the light we claim. Still humble in the struggle, still proud of our name.
All right, I got it. Season 2, episode 11 here. I got Joshua with me here. He is a mindset coach and a current correctional officer. And we're going to be talking about how cutting off toxic friends is good for our mental health. So how are we doing, brother? Introduce yourself.
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Thank you for having me today. I really appreciate it. Yeah. So yeah, like I said before, like I started this whole journey, as a young kid, right? I wanted to get in some type of acts of service, like I kind of grew up in the struggle. Like I'm originally I live in Arizona now. That's where I'm at right now. So it's fairly early for me right now. But I started off on the East Coast. I started off in New Jersey and North New Jersey at the time, and then so like in the struggle was real growing up. I knew that at that time, even though I was going through the things I was going through and emotions, I knew there was always a bigger purpose for me. And it was pretty cool because I always had family members who would tell me like, hey, like this kid going to be somebody, and I never knew what it was. I never understand what it was until like I kind of got into corrections and what I get to do today, help individuals out. So, me getting into corrections actually helped me. I've been through the ups and downs and the valleys and peaks of life, and actually through that journey, I had my rough moments and corrections, and then now I'm actually tapping into, the success of corrections now, because like I told you now, like I am like coaching individuals there, like I've been facilitating classes there for about what 3 years, and now I'm actually doing one-on-one coachings and having a little bit more meaningful conversations with individuals and just helping them just be the best version of themselves, right? And ultimately come down to like self-love, So yeah,
Yeah, so I wanted to kind of go into that journey of like how you became a correctional officer before we get into the topic. Because
okay,
usually people, have a passion for certain things because maybe they've been in the system themselves, or maybe they've seen brothers and sisters been in and out of the system, and it's not easy for Black people to get out of the system once they're in it. So let's take us through that journey of like why you wanted to become that, and or what people inspire you to become that.
yeah, awesome. Yeah, that's a wonderful question, man. Yeah, thank you for asking. So, the reason why, like, I got into corrections in the first place, like I told you, like, I grew up in a struggle, right? And I always seen people around me, being incarcerated, whether it was family or friends, and like, and I remember growing up watching like police with my brother, like cops on TV. And I was like, I want to do that, and it's pretty ironic because my brother he wound up getting locked up at the time. And, I was like, oh, and I remember going through seeing my mom hurt in that process. And I was like, that's when I made the decision that like, I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to hurt my mom, and I want to do the opposite and stuff like that. And as I got older, I realized that, like I told you, like I wanted to do like some type of acts of service. So when I moved out here, I actually moved to Arizona to do border patrol, So when I want to go through that process, and then corrections was the thing that popped up right away. So I was like, you know what, let me get into that. Like I had family members who's been locked up and everything. I was like, like I know I could, do something different. And I never went into prison with that mindset of the macho man and I'm here to make you guys' time harder. Like I went in there with the mindset, okay, what can I do to help individuals out, whatever the case may be. Because I know that, like everyone commit the crime and no one is perfect, that I'm not there to give them more issues on their time. I'm just simply like, what can I do to help them out to better their future, So, and that's why I kind of got into the system. And yeah.
Yeah, and that's wonderful to hear. Sometimes it's good to be selfless in life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I know a lot of
Absolutely.
selfish people. I used to be a selfish person myself.
Yeah.
I didn't care about anybody. Only wanted things to benefit myself. But then as you get older, you realize you don't. No blessings is coming your way by being mean and manipulative towards other people. So I had to really kind of evolve you know, not the same person I was 15 years ago like I am today. So I had to really do some self reflection and kind of ask myself, I'm only taking on jobs that's going to benefit, um, me passionately about something that I want to help other people. I don't want to always think about myself, you know. So
Hmm.
I think it's good to be able to be selfless and go into a career path that maybe it's a little bit, toxic a little bit because
Yeah.
what day is going to be like. But
Hmm.
I think that that's really tremendous for you to be doing something that you're passionate about. Um, but have you like made any friends from that? I mean, I know you probably. I mean, maybe not.
Yeah, yeah.
Something, you never know. Like a brother from the jail could be your best friend. You never know. It just all depends. Maybe years down the line, he's like, you helped me out. You did something different from all the other officers. So, have you had any of those types of experiences or no?
No, not recent. Like I said, when I started coaching, like doing the one-on-one sessions, like it's kind of frowned upon, to like kind of like keep a contact with individuals getting out. But like I said, the program where I'm at, they able to actually reach back out, and tell us their success stories, or they able to come back into the facility and just express their, the things that they went through going out there, to like the next group of guys that's behind them, so it's pretty amazing through the journey. Like I told you before, like I got into it like having one-on-one sessions with individuals. Like I told you, like I want to do some type of acts of service, and I know that being in a prison and just telling individuals to lock down or go to trial and do this, it had to be more. Like I see individuals go through the classes and really try their hardest and wind up coming back. And when they come back, I would ask them, like, hey, what is it that's causing come back? And like I said, like it came down to problem solving advocacy. So once I realized that, I identified it, I was like, let me come up with a curriculum. And I started in a group session first, and get some engagement. And you can kind of see around the room that some people didn't want to share as much, because as men, they got the ego involved, and usually the ego gets you in trouble. I was like, you know what, let me start doing a little bit more meaningful conversations with individuals. And that's when I started doing the one-on-one sessions. And then the impact was tremendous. Like it was in the beginning, I would start off, you would see individuals who would walk around like walk in the hallways. And I was like, you know what, let me talk. I was like, let me talk to that one, who kind of had their head down. And I would just pull them in and start having the conversations. And I would ask other people, and some people were like, no, they don't know because it's DOC, right? They don't know what they're going to get. They don't believe that like all the officers are there to help them out, because some officers do. They just tell them what they want to hear, not really what it is, So, and then some individuals tell me like, hey, Paul, like I wish that, I would have done your program because I see the difference in a person mindset, and one of the guys like I will break it down to him. Like I said, like everything in life starts with a thought, right? It's you know we know that life is like it starts with you thinking of something. Like you and I having this meaningful conversation right now on internet, started with a thought, like and the reason why it happens because of the action, right? The person had to do the action to obtain a thought. And I tell them, I was like, yo, you can achieve and accomplish anything that you want, like by simply thinking it, right? And then you have to take the action. So we know the thought is the beginning, the action is the ending result. I was like, so let's work on the in between. Like, what is causing you to struggle, wherever that may be? I encourage individuals there is just figure out like I would set little goals for them to do to figure things out for themselves. I would encourage them to ask questions, keep people around them that's like-minded, who was on that path, because most of the time they're individuals who are incarcerated. Honestly don't have like what how they grow up is simply like what they believe, right? So they form like addictions. Like most individuals who are incarcerated, they not all violent people, they have some type of form of addiction, so majority of those guys are going to go home if we like it or not. So what are we really doing to help these guys out? And so I tell them like, hey, like identify your triggers, right? Understand like what is it that caused you to get high in the first place? Maybe it was just something joyful, and over time you just picked up the addiction. What if it's some type of trauma that suppressing? I said, because guess what? When you get out of that high or whatever it is, like it's gonna come right back. It's gonna rear its head, and you're gonna have to deal with the problem then. I said, so let's work on that now, So, and individuals started calling me back as they started getting out, and I call them, they start emailing me and telling me like, hey, Powell, like you truly helped me out. Like that I know how to, set boundaries now and, like remove myself from certain things because I know it's a trigger for me. So it's pretty cool to hear those stories back and they come back and share the stories with the group of guys and stuff like that. So it
Yeah,
kept me going.
yeah, that is interesting to hear that mind to hear the thing about mindset versus action,
Yeah.
because in a split of a second, you have a choice of whether you want to hang around bad people or good people. And believe me, I've had a lot of bad people that I hung around just because I wanted them to just because I wanted a friend. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? And I think, statistically speaking, that a lot of men would not be in jail if they have had better influences in their life. And I
Hmm.
always say that, you know, the just take a reflection of who you are around your closest friends,
Hmm.
because that'll tell you exactly who you are. You might not think you're like them, but you're
Hmm.
associating with them, so you are like them, right?
Hmm.
And so I had to really do a lot of self reflection on my end to kind of get out of to get the bad people out of my life. That was no
Hmm.
good. I had a lot of toxic friends, that could have actually landed me in jail.
Yeah. Yeah.
They could, they could, but I think that with some of the friends that I'm no longer friends with, some of my ex friends, I think that they were struggling in life. They didn't have a direction. They wanted that quick money,
Yeah.
but not all money is good money. And I think
Hmm.
that you have to have a mindset of, are you going to continue to hang around people that is not good for you and that's toxic for you? Or are you going to play right into their manipulative ways and toxic ways of them continue to be around them? Because there could be some envious, and there could be some jealousy in that friendship too, that a lot
Hmm.
of people don't talk about, and they want you to stay at their level because
Hmm.
they want you to get in trouble, or they have thoughts of getting in trouble themselves, so they're going to bring you right down with them. But I say
Hmm.
that that's not a good quality to have. You
Yeah.
need people that's going to be around you, that's going to support you, that's going to make good choices for you. You know,
Hmm.
because why do I need someone to bring me down? I can do that all by myself, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, yeah,
I don't
yeah,
need
you're
help
right.
for that. But I
Absolutely.
think, yeah, I think a lot of men, if they really took a look at their closest friends, they would see that some of them are not good, and then they wouldn't be in jail where they are. Now, given the system is corrupted,
Hmm.
it's not always about you doing something that's resulting in going to jail or prison. Sometimes you could just be at the wrong scene at the wrong time, and boom, they think you associated with that person, so you get locked up. So,
Hmm.
have you seen people that maybe have said in the correction, that's being a correctional officer, have you seen people that have maybe had conversations with their jail friends like, I'm not supposed to be in here, man. I took a crime for something I didn't even do. Have you ever
Yeah.
had those conversations, overheard some of those conversations or anything like that?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, all the time. Some of this stuff, it's true, right? And some of it is just they just don't want to take accountability, right? So I tell individuals like you have to take accountability. Like your true power is you taking accountability for your life, right? Understanding that, everything happens in your life for a reason, the way it needs to happen. And I tell them, I was like, okay, I ask them a question. Like, oh, like I wasn't supposed to be there. I said, but you knew who your friend was, you knew what he did, right? And you still chose to go with that friend, knowing that it's a possibility that that's going to happen. Like, and I always say that sometimes we're not responsible for the things that happen in our life, but what you ultimately are responsible for is the choices and decisions you're going to make after that, right? Because there's going to be certain circumstances that happen, right? People, places, or things, that happen in our life that we don't have control over. But you have to have control over the choices and decisions that you make after that, right? Meaning coming to you. Like, what are you going to do next to, get better? Or what are you going to do within yourself to, work on yourself to move forward, whatever it got to be. So I always tell them, like, I was like, okay, I get it that that happened to you and you shouldn't have been there, right? But you ultimately made the decision and the choice to be in that predicament, and knowing that, there's a possibility that that can possibly happen. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that, you know me and are in jail. Some of them, or in prison because they obviously did nothing wrong,
Yeah,
or maybe, they just was associated with the wrong person. But it's
stereotyping
always.
and all
Do
that.
you believe that they're when they after they've been placed in a correctional facility that they are corrected in life, or do you think that some of them, still haven't learned their lesson? What's your take on that?
Oh, so I mean, usually when I have the first conversation with Rocka and tell if they want it or not, like I told you with regards to the accountability part of it, they still blaming other people. Oh, this person caused me to do this, or this happened in my life, so I did that. Like I tell them, like, hey, you're not ready yet. Like you still blaming everything else besides yourself. So I usually encourage them, like, hey, man, like. Yes, like yeah, that could possibly happen, but you won't have no control of it. Yes, unfortunately, things happen where, like you hear it a lot, like a lot of guys will relapse for something, due to like a family member passing away. Yes, that's a tragic experience, right? That's trauma that's going to happen, but like, is that ultimately going to help you be successful when you get out? Is that going to cause you to be where you need to be in life when you get out? So I usually encourage them, like, hey, yes, like yeah, that happened, but what can you do now to work on that? That's why, like, I tell them, hey, work on your triggers. Like, identify what it is something that's going to cause you to relapse, whatever the case may be. And you're absolutely right too. I want to touch on the fact that, sometimes individuals, get profiled like that. There was a situation that happened with me, like I was simply walking down the street and I fit the profile of somebody pointing guns at people, and it was 20 cars around us. It was me, my brother, and a couple other friends. We was literally leaving a party, and we seen there was a whole bunch of like white kids pointing toy guns, had water guns, shooting at people, and then all of a sudden, a couple minutes later down the road, I had like 20 cop cars with the drawing guns at us. So, so like I get it and stuff like that. Usually in regards of like the prison system, I never really like probe or ask them like their crimes and stuff like that. But like I definitely can understand it. There's a lot of people in prison who in there, not necessarily for the crime that they committed. So
Yeah. And to speak further on about being corrected, I don't necessarily, sometimes I feel like it makes them worse after they
yeah,
leave prison,
yeah,
because they've been stuck in an isolated, secluded area for so long. They haven't
mhm,
really seen people for years.
yeah,
They have seen them. It's not the same as when they went in there.
yeah,
And there's a lot of broken families because of that too. And I
yeah,
believe that all of that's still traumatic for the person. While it might be traumatic for the fans and family, it's also
hmm,
traumatic for the person that did the crime or didn't do the crime. You
hmm,
know, they don't when they get out, I'm sure they just look up in the sky and just like, thank you for
hmm,
letting me see this beautiful sunlight because they don't really
yeah,
see it that much. And I think that I sometimes I feel like it can make you snap just being
hmm,
in there for so long. So I don't really, I mean, some people do probably come out corrected,
hmm,
and some people it'll probably make them worse.
yeah, yeah.
Do you think sometimes it can make people worse than what they already are, or do you think that it just depends on case by case basis?
Yeah, another great question. Yeah, honestly, it can make them worse if they going in there just laying around, sitting on their rack all day, really not programming, not doing the work on themselves, right? I always encourage them. Like a lot of the times, most men in particular, like they react off their emotions, right? So I usually tell individuals like, hey, like I identify like what is it that make you impulsive? What is it that how you react off of it? And I usually give them little tips and tricks, right? We know that when emotions are high, logic is low, So I usually encourage like, hey, we know that this is happening, but what can you do to fix it, right? So make yourself in a present state of mind and you know react. Like I don't want you to not react in general, because that's where resentment and anger comes up, right? Feel the emotion in real life time, but don't fester in it. And I tell the guys like through the whole process that, because individuals do like they think that they can get out and mend their relationships and their families right away. And I tell them, hey, you have to take the time for yourself. Like at my program, at the facility, they have about 180 days to the gate, and a lot of guys want to come at the 90-day marker. I'm like, no, like you need to work on yourself. Don't worry about getting back out there to your family and friends because they need your help. I said, you have to be the best version of yourself first for them to see that. I said, because when you get out, I said, we teach people how to treat us, right? So the last representation that they had from you is whatever it is that caused you to be here in the first place, right? So work on yourself, be a different version of yourself, right? Understand how to control your emotions. Because I see a lot of individuals who are in prison for the rest of their life because they react off of emotion, right? Have enough awareness to go in these classes, actually learn something. What can it benefit you? So ultimately depends on the work that they do for themselves. Like if the guy's just sitting there just playing video games and working out and really not working on this, then majority of the time, yes, they will go out, and then they just going to come back. That's why I say I encourage to work on the triggers, like identify what it is that caused you to get here in the first place. Because guess what? This world is going to keep reminding you of that same issue over and over again until you fix it, right? So
Yeah, and I think it's really hard. Like it don't. I mean, I'll get more about back to like losing the friends and family after they get out of jail because they moved on with their life. They're not sitting
yeah,
around
absolutely,
waiting for you. Like you got it
absolutely.
twisted. If you think we're gonna just wait 5 or 6 years for you to come home
Yeah.
and pick up like everything is good. No, they don't roll like that. Like we got to carry
Mm-hmm.
on with our life. But I think that a lot of people, men in general, I think they had this expectation that, oh, you acting different, man. I thought we was best friends. No, that was before you got locked up, right?
Mm-hmm.
All things, all of the things that we used to do is no longer an option. Probably it could be still, but
Yeah.
you have to move different now, especially
Mm-hmm.
now that you might be a convicted felon, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's on your record, or sometimes it might get expunged. It just all depends on the crime
Mm-hmm.
that you committed,
Mm-hmm.
or the things you did. But I think that a lot of men, like you said, they have to take accountability. They have to move forward, and they have to do things differently. So if you know that that friend that got you locked up and still on the same old ways, you can't be
Mm-hmm.
hanging around with him. Like, what we
Yeah,
doing? You're
absolutely.
reverting right back to what you got you into the problem.
Absolutely.
So I think you have to have a different mindset around just creating new friends. Like start
Mm-hmm.
over, build over your friendship. You have to get a new girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever it is. You have to do that. You have to pick. You can't just pick back up where you left off at because more 9 times out of 10, that girl or that is with somebody else now. They're not giving you
Mm-hmm.
the time of day of life. It's very few people that's very loyal that's going to stay committed to someone that's still locked up. Like it's very
Mm-hmm.
few people. I don't know a lot of people unless you.
Yeah.
I don't know a lot of people that's going
Yeah.
to still stay and say, "I'm going to hold you down no matter what." Maybe
Yeah.
there are, maybe there isn't. Who knows? But I think that you have to do a lot of self reflection to move forward in life, and definitely you want to find you a good job you know after you've been locked up because they do. There are jobs that's felon friendly,
Mm-hmm.
so you have to look into that. Even Ohio Means Job can probably help you out too if you are in this situation because I have family and friends that's been locked up,
Yeah.
and unfortunately, some of them still haven't changed. They still haven't
Yeah.
been corrected. But
Yeah.
that's a whole nother story for another day.
Yeah.
they still, I mean, they still doing the same old slinging drugs, doing whatever they want to do. And
Yeah.
I think that you're just going to end right back up where you ultimately don't want to. And then also you got to look at your mental health. Your mental
Mm-hmm.
health it can be a hell of a drug. Like if you
Mm-hmm.
think you're gonna just get everything easy after you come out of jail, it's already enough that you're a black man in the world.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Then you're convicted,
Yeah.
you got to do a lot of work to kind of
Yeah.
redeem and heal yourself. So I
Yeah.
think going to see a therapist is another good thing too,
Yeah. Yeah.
because
Absolutely.
you gotta talk to somebody about what happened, and you might have had some trauma within the jail, fighting off men, all that bad stuff that you hear. I think that it does something to the men's mind too,
Mm-hmm.
being locked up and secluded like that. Because who wants to live their life like that for the next five,
Yeah.
7 years? We're not
Yeah.
made to be locked up like an animal. Like we're
Mm-hmm.
not.
Yeah.
And I think that the whole prison reform system needs to be reevaluated because it's just wrong on so many levels. There's a lot of nefarious things that's going on within the system that I don't really care to like. And
Yeah.
I'm not gonna get into this conversation because God knows
Yeah.
this podcast would be blowing up if I got into the things that I really want to say.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's a lot of stuff that they need to take a look at it. So, what are some of the things that you notice about that maybe they can um, reform within the prison system? What do you think some of the things is?
So honestly, only could speak to my experience, right? And where I'm at. So like actually like I started the highest custody out here in Arizona. And I seen the wildest things. I see individuals literally locked down and then go to the streets, right? And I was thinking like what like this is nothing, we're not helping this individual out. Like we set them up for success. But in the past, I say like since 2017, that's when they created the program that I'm at right now. And like it's seeing the difference, right? And it literally comes down to, like helping these guys like change their mindset, helping them identify and then being aware of it. Like how you say you've been saying it the whole time. Like I'm aware, aware, aware. And that's what it comes down to, awareness, right? You can't change anybody who don't want to change, right? It comes down, the most important thing is having self-awareness, right? And then that's when you're able to make the necessary changes that you need to make within yourself, and that it's slowly but surely changing. Like it's not going to change overnight, right? But I see a difference out here. We're constantly changing, we're constantly evolving and doing something different. Like I don't think I believe I'll stay in a department as long as I have if I didn't see it, right? And like I told you, the program to where I'm at now, where we're growing, we just open up more and more facilities. I think every complex need the program that we have, to let these guys know that hey, there is help out here that's for you. Yes, that if all you have to do is just simply ask, or all you have to do is simply, like I said, problem solve and advocate for yourself. Like I always encourage these guys to have these people tell you no. Stop speaking that like, oh, no, that they're not going to help you out. Ask them the question first and have them tell you no first. So but like I said, we're growing, and that old mentality that used to be in the prison system is slowly but surely leaving, So it's gonna be out with the old and in with the new. And like as we start to build programs and like I said, and it's simply tailored for the mind, helping these guys identify the things that they need to work on, right? Because everybody reentry plan is different. No one's is the same. So everybody is dealing with their own scenario that they have to overcome, for them to be successful when they leave.
Yeah. Well, I really enjoyed this conversation. It's
Yeah,
been a pleasure talking to you, Joshua.
yeah,
If men are searching for somebody to kind of like talk to, or do a different mindset,
yeah,
how
yeah,
can they reach out
absolutely.
to you?
Oh, yeah. So you can reach out to me on mindseteffectcoach.com, or also you can follow me on Instagram. I have the mindset underscore effect underscore. So, and I'm looking forward to helping each and everybody out, like I love this, man. I love what regards to your journey as well. Like I know a part of that, the whole thing is, setting boundaries too, in regards of, because like one thing I want to talk on before we end is like, like I don't necessarily call everybody toxic or toxic friends, toxic people. It just who we are is just a reflection of our past, right? So they picked up those traits through through their experiences in life. It just it's
Mhm.
about not necessarily, I had to remove myself from certain friends, certain families just to stay true to myself. So it's about, I want to end it with, setting boundaries, giving yourself grace, and just identifying the things that don't align with you anymore. You don't have to totally remove every single body, but it's okay to disappoint others, stay true to yourself, and be the best version of you. So
Yeah.